On Monday, Trump signs an executive order that designates Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Antifa stands for anti-fascist, and it's not a single organization, but rather an umbrella term for far left-leaning militant groups that confront or resist groups like neo-Nazis and white supremacists at demonstrations. Critics say that it's unclear if Trump can do this because there is no domestic terrorist law that is equivalent to foreign terrorist organizations that would give the DOJ more power to prosecute those who give material support. And organizations within the US, on all sides of the political spectrum, have broad protections under the First Amendment. The next day, Trump speaks at the UN, where pretty much he said that he was right about everything, and that the United Nations has potential, but is not living up to it. Specific points he made were that the US is the hottest country in the world right now, that he ended 7 wars and he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, that he wants to end biological weapons, that all countries need to control their borders like the US, and immigration is destroying Europe, that he loves Christianity, that green energy and climate change are a hoax, and that he could have done a better job remodeling the UN building. Then on Wednesday, Trump posted on social media that he was targeted in 3 sinister events at the UN the day before. First, the escalator stopped working, then his teleprompter stopped working, and finally the sound was off in the auditorium, and leaders in there couldn't hear him. Here's his social media post if you want to read it for yourself. The next day, the DOJ indicts James Comey for false statements and obstructing a congressional proceeding to Congress. The indictment makes Comey the first former senior government official involved in the long-concluded 2016 Russian interference investigation to face prosecution. Trump urged to prosecute Comey this week because he had until Tuesday, September 30th, to bring a case before the 5-year statute of limitations expired. Here's Comey's response to the indictment.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged. You are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Then on Friday, a judge rules that Mike Lindell defamed Smartmatic with false claims that their voting machines rigged the 2020 elections in Biden's favor over Trump. The court noted that Lindell claimed 51 times that Smartmatic interfered with the election results. However, the court concluded that based on the records presented, no reasonable trier of fact could find that any of Lindell's claims are true. The judge deferred until future proceedings to resolve the question of whether Lindell acted with malice before Smartmatic will be awarded damages. Lindell lost a similar case against Dominion voting machines, and he had to pay $2.3 million to Dominion. Before this case, Smartmatic won settlements against Newsmax and One American News Network, who also accused them of rigging the election, and they currently have one active case against Fox News. The next day, Trump says he'll send troops into Portland and authorize full force, if necessary, to handle domestic terrorists. In response to this, Oregon's congressional delegation of Democratic lawmakers said in a letter to Trump, this unilateral action represents an abuse of executive authority, seeks to incite violence, and undermines the constitutional balance of power between the federal government and the states. Then on Sunday, Missouri's governor signed a new U.S. House map into law that would allow Republicans to add one more additional seat in Congress. This is part of Trump's gerrymandering plan to try to hold on to a narrow Republican majority in next year's congressional election. Opponents of this new map are pursuing a referendum petition that, if successful, would force a statewide vote on the new map that could potentially reject it.